Hello and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, weekly program where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. The standard disclaimer applies for tonight's episode. The thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely those of the participants and do not reflect any Grand Lodge statements or positions. To interact with us, you can send messages to us on our Twitter page at Mason Roundtable, on our Facebook page for episode 258. Inked and Enlightened, or on the YouTube chat running alongside the right-hand side of this YouTube video. So my name's Jason Richards. I am past master of Acacia Lodge number 16 in Clifton, Virginia, member of the Colonial Lodge number 1821 in Washington, D.C., and glad to see everybody here tonight for tonight's episode. Let's get started with introductions, and we will hand it off to Brother Mike Hambrecht.
Mike the intern here, Mike Hambrecht from Triandria Lodge number 780, where I'm the junior deacon and lodge education officer, and also of Lakeshore Lodge number 307. Good evening.
Great, Mike. It's good to have you here. Brother Juan Sepulveda.
Hello, everybody. Juan Sepulveda here from Orange Blossom Lodge number 80 in Kissimmee, Florida, and the host of the Winding Stairs Freemasonry podcast. Good evening, brothers.
All right, good evening, Juan. It's good to have you with us. And Brother John Ruark will be joining us in a moment from Mobile Masonic Command, but let's get over to our special guest tonight. Brother Charles, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from and what you do. This is the great part about a live show. We just roll with it when the technology doesn't
doesn't let's hope he shows muted. I wonder if he can't find how to unmute himself.
Yep. So do know that that Brother Charles Berger is past master, I believe, of Richmond Randolph Lodge in Richmond, Virginia, just down the way. He is shaking his head. Go ahead and head on out and then come back in. Yeah, we can't hear you either. So this is going to be the the show for you guys tonight. Bear with us while we
while they sort that out. I want to give the brothers a little backdrop as to our previous experience with Brother Charles. Back in 2017, we had an event in Virginia called TMR 300, in which we were celebrating the 300th anniversary of the establishment of the Grand Lodge of England. Now, we had speakers from all over the country come over. We had brothers from all over the country, including brothers from Canada, and we had brothers from pretty much every state coming over. And we had a whole section of Masonic memorabilia, Masonic products, and some of the authors that came to speak, they had some of their books. And among these vendors, we had Brother Charles. Now, I remember during the planning stage of this event, which was going to be pretty much the biggest event we had until the year, they mentioned, you know what we could do? We could have a brother doing Masonic tattoos live during the event.
You guys got me?
We got you.
Welcome
All
back.
right. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened there. My apologies.
That's okay.
I'm just waiting on video here.
That's okay. It might take a minute when you first log in.
There we go.
There you go.
Hey.
Hey,
Sorry,
Brother Charles.
Hey.
I incorrectly told our viewers that you were past master of Richmond Randolph, but you are not. What lodge are you past master of?
I am past master of Glen Allen 131, and that is in Glen Allen, Virginia.
Awesome, which is just above Richmond.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Hey, Juan, go ahead and finish your story about the 300, and then we'll get the show on the road.
Perfect. Yeah. So, Brother Charles, I was just telling them about when we were planning for the TMR 300 event,
Yeah.
that we threw out the idea of maybe having a brother who could do Masonic tattoos while we had the event.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how we got a hold of you, and you were gracious
Actually,
enough to accept our
actually,
invitation.
Charles, you got a hold of us, and
I believe
yeah?
I believe I did. Yeah.
yeah,
Nice.
you emailed us and said, "Hey, you guys are playing this event. I've got a crazy idea. Let's do tattoos."
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
I couldn't pass up the opportunity. I mean, what a cool event that was, and it all went so seamlessly. It was a good experience, that's for sure.
So we're very thankful that you came over. It was a very cool experience to see some brothers get their first tattoos.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It
I'm not
was neat.
I'm not gonna get ahead of myself, and we'll let you give us a little bit of a background of how you've come into Masonry, and perhaps give us a little bit of information how that blends in with your profession.
Sure, sure.
So before we do that, I just want to take a quick 5 seconds and thank all of our patrons on Patreon. You guys are doing great stuff, keeping our lights on and keeping our hosting costs from coming out of our own pockets. So we really appreciate it. And if you aren't a patron yet, go ahead to www.patreon.com/the Masonic Roundtable and sign up. We got some really cool swag coming your way, and we've got something really special we're cooking up this summer for the Knights in TMR. So without further ado, I'll bring it back to Brother Charles. Go ahead and tell us just a little bit about yourself, how you got started in the tattoo business and Masonry, and then we'll get into tonight's topic.
Yeah. So I started tattooing about 11 years ago. I was an apprentice at a shop called Enigma Studios here in Richmond. I had no idea what I was doing. I knew that I loved body modification. I've always been drawn to modified people. It's just been an interest of mine for a long time. So I knew I would work in the industry somehow, some way. And I was lucky enough to land an apprenticeship. It was tough. I learned a lot. And I've just been practicing ever since. And I started working at a shop in Carytown here in Richmond. And the owner of the shop had a square and compasses tattooed on his temple. And I knew nothing of Freemasonry. I have no family that I know that have been Freemasons. And, I said, look, this guy's got tattoos on his face. He's heavily tattooed, but he was a really nice guy and a really solid guy. So I asked him the $1 million question, and that was that. He took me to lodge. I had dinner for a few months, and there we go. And he was my top line signer. And I haven't looked back. I've loved every minute of tattooing and Masonry that I've lived so far.
That's awesome, Charles. I just absolutely adore tattoo art, and it's so neat to see all of the different styles and how the human body really comes to be its own palette and canvas for symbolism and symbology. So we brought you on the show tonight because you've done a good bit of research on not only the craft of tattooing, because it really is its own art form and its own craft, but also how it interconnects to the craft, which is Freemasonry. So what are the similarities, and how does one play into the other?
There's a few. I like especially in the way that they are taught. So one has to approach either Masonry or tattooing to come into it. It's not something anyone will ever ask you to do. In fact, in tattooing especially, we try to keep people out. It is a coveted craft, and the information is held sacred by a lot of people. Not as true anymore, and we'll find that in Masonry too, where the internet has played a huge part in the spreading of misinformation and conspiracy theories and things of that nature with tattooing and Freemasonry. But has also served to connect us all as well. But you generally start out with a mentor, and then as you learn more and more, you start learning from others as well. So though we may start with a single mentor in tattooing and Masonry, we find ourselves students of the craft itself and others who have come before us.
So when you're learning, is there a manual for tattooing? How does that knowledge capture and knowledge transfer take place?
You've got an upper thigh to practice on, and there you go. A lot of tattooing is done on yourself and trusting friends when you start. There are things like fake skin, cantaloupes, oranges that people practice on, but there's really nothing like tattooing skin. So in order to get it down, you have to do it. Now, an apprentice, if apprenticed properly, won't touch a tattoo machine for the first 6 months of their apprenticeship. It's learning the history, it's learning the basics, the drawing fundamentals, all of that. So before you even get into applying a tattoo, there's a lot to learn, which is similar in masonry. Before you jump in a chair, you really need to take grasp of what masonry is, which I think is lost. It certainly was for me when I got in. I was raised and then I was junior deacon, and I think that's true for a lot of people. Now I embraced it, but we see it happen in all of our lodges where brothers are just, I don't know what this is, but here I am, so I'm going to do it and try to figure it out. But I think in order to be good at it, like with anything else, you really have to embrace the concept of masonry as well as tattooing.
Awesome. So so what other parallels can we draw between tattooing as a craft and Freemasonry?
I would say in the public eye, masonry has definitely had its ups and downs as far as social acceptance, political acceptance. There have been, Morgan Affair, things of that nature that have kind of taken masonry down in the eyes of the public. And same with tattooing, especially in different parts of the world. In Japan, people were tattooed to show their criminal status. In Rome, slaves were forcefully tattooed. But then you have, the other side of, especially now with tattooing, where I think there's 7 to 10 television shows about it at the moment. We've got a few about masonry as well, and so it's out there and it is becoming a little more socially accepted, which I notice every day. I would actually say that masonry is having a little bit harder time with that because of all the conspiracy theories and the misinformation that's spread. But tattooing, I'm seeing more and more parents at our PTA meetings that are heavily tattooed and they're showing. And so I think that it is a commonality of the two, that they have suffered some scrutiny, but have also kind of risen back up in the eyes of the public as well.
Oh, that's a neat parallel to draw as well, Charles. So from the standpoint of being heavily tattooed yourself, how has that affected impressions of you in lodges? Have you had any experiences where you've gone into a lodge and brethren have treated you perhaps a little bit differently just because of your appearance?
Sure, absolutely. It's funny; it never fails. When I give this talk on tattooing and Freemasonry's presentation at different lodges around Virginia, and it never fails. There's always a brother that says, Charles, when I saw you the first time at the Scottish Rite Building or whatever, I didn't know what the hell to think of you, and who they're letting into Freemasonry. But I got to tell you, you're doing a good job. So I get that quite a bit, which I enjoy. I think it helps to break down barriers, and it really puts the inner qualifications of a man, is what Masonry regards, to the test, 100%. And some of these guys, they certainly aren't mean or forthcoming about it, but they kind of are a little bit more standoffish than others. And I understand it's a generational thing. I never expect people to understand. That's, I think, a lot of the problem in the world is people have such high expectations of other people. Why would I expect a 90-year-old man who grew up in the Midwest, who can't, why would he understand tattoos on my face? I would never expect him to. But instead, sitting down, talking to a brother, on the level, really understanding and listening to each other, that is where changes are made. You try to fight fire with fire, it's just not going to work. You have to get in there, kind of infiltrate, if you will, and talk to people. I'm just another man, I just am more decorated, my body is a temple. What temple have you ever been in that's not decorated, So, and you sit down and you say these things to these guys, and it helps them understand. And same for me. Some of these guys I would have never met, probably never would have spoken to if we weren't in lodge together, just as you guys have experienced as well. And it's helping me to be more empathetic and to be more understanding of generations that have come before me or other mindsets or what have you. So I really enjoy that because it kind of forces these guys to be in the same room and to have those discussions, and I found that, I was nervous coming into the craft as a heavily tattooed, heavily modified person. Like I said, my boss he kind of paved the way for me in my lodge in particular. But I was nervous. I walked in and I said, what are these guys going to even respect me at all? They're going to take me as a joke, and that's what I've been dealing with in my whole life, which I chose to look like this. It's the whole discrimination thing, whatever. I chose this. I understood the repercussions. Even, I've had family that told me, look, you're going to make it a lot harder for yourself in this life, choosing to be modified the way you are. And I said, bring it on. Cool. Let's do it. Challenge accepted. And I've enjoyed the journey thus far. It's really proved to be educational and enlightening as well.
Yeah, I'm glad that you bring up the word journey. It is a testament. Every symbol that is in your body, there's a story to it.
Sure.
There's a day when it happened. There's a reason that inspired it. And I've had friends that have some tattoos that, to external eyes, they just look like. I work with a lady who had Drop Dead Fred tattooed.
Yeah.
But there was a story behind
Sure.
it. And
Absolutely.
it's one of those catalysts for conversation.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, ask a little bit about that. How often do people actually inquire, and you're able to then engage in a meaningful conversation as a result of you having your body adorned?
Of the particular tattoos I have on me?
Mm-hmm.
It happens. It's not as much as you may think. And being so heavily tattooed, there's just so much that kind of blends together. But there are certain ones that stand out. People always ask me what my knuckles say, and it's good life, live well. I had a police officer when I was much younger ask me, he said, what do those say? I said, oh, good life. He goes, all right, get out of here. He was expecting some gang, something, whatever. But
it says, I hate the police.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Do you have a warrant? Yeah. Anyway.
Am I being detained? That's
right.
What it is.
Exactly.
I don't have to identify myself.
Right. So, there are certain ones, and I do have the square and compasses on my kind of above my thumb now, which I recently got the rocker added after I came out of the East, which I tell you what, the older you get, the more painful it gets. It's just I'm about done getting tattooed. It's insane. So I'm trying to fill up before I get too old. So that one, of course, strikes up conversation, I have my palms done. I had the last line of my wedding vows on the inside of my left palm. So there are some really good conversations that come from tattoos. And when I'm out and about, it's just like anything else. You're riding a motorcycle down the road. You see another guy on a motorcycle, girl on a motorcycle. You wave to each other. It's kind of this, I see you kind of thing. And it's similar with tattoos. Not always, but it does happen, just like the square and compasses. You see any Masonic symbol, hey, I see you, I acknowledge you. And that's kind of a cool little thread there that I enjoy,
That's cool.
Yeah.
We have on the YouTube channel, we have Zach Berkner asking, how long after getting raised to the Master Mason degree did you get your first Masonic tattoo?
I waited maybe a week. I went right into it. I was so excited. I would like to think most Masons are excited to at least wear a ring or display it somehow, Yeah. But I was very excited. So, and collecting tattoos is just another day for me. So it only made sense.
And that question, begs another one. For example, we know that if we see someone who is just an apprentice, is just starting in the journey, he is usually discouraged from displaying the
Right.
lights in his vehicle or in jewelry because
As he should be.
exactly. Now, have you ever encountered this where someone comes to you excited because they were initiated and they want to get started in marking themselves with some Masonic symbols?
Not necessarily, but I could tell you, it kind of segues into another point where there are companies out there, as you guys know, that will print our emblems, our symbols on things, make money off of them. And that's true in tattooing as well. So there is one particular tattoo company that has a shirt that's this big skull, huge square and compass. The whole shirt is a square and compasses. None of them are Masons who made it. And almost everyone who I see wearing that shirt is not a Mason either. And it used to bother me more than it does now. Now I take solace in the fact that they don't know the true meaning of that symbol. And though they may appropriate it, they'll never understand the true meaning of that symbol unless they're a Master Mason. And so I kind of, I back off. I don't give them too much flack. I'm like, oh, well, I asked them if they're a traveling man. If they tell me they've been to Jersey a couple times, then I know they're not a Mason, So yeah, it's a thing that happens in tattooing. It's disrespectful, but it is what it is. People are going to do it,
So, Charles, do you have some sort of cadre that you're involved with, or rapport that you've built up with other Freemasons who are also tattoo artists?
Absolutely, yeah. We have a group on Facebook called Masonic Tattoos, and we have a little logo. It's 2 tattoo machines and a clip cord that make the square and compasses. It's pretty cool. A guy over in the UK makes them, and he sends us the pens. And we all talk online. We share our tattoos with each other. Give critiques here and there. But it's really a neat thing. There were, I think, 3 or 4 of us last year that were in that group that were all Master of our Lodge the same year. So we are going to meet up in New York. I'm hoping in the next year or so, and have kind of a past masters tattooers weekend. It's just another thread to bond us. I really enjoyed that group. I really enjoyed those guys, those brothers a lot.
So do you so when you get your own tattoos, do you have certain artists that are your go-to? Not asking for names or anything, or do you like to actually spread the art around and just try to collect art from different folks?
Yeah, I'm on the latter. I definitely enjoy collecting as much as I can from different people. There are artists I've been tattooed more than others, but it's usually just out of convenience. Of course, I enjoy their work, but if I work with them or I'm a good friend with them, then we'll tattoo each other a little bit more. But I do enjoy collecting. I mean, just as with Masonry, traveling is a really big part of tattooing. It's one of the things I love about it. The fact that I can travel to Savannah and work a tattoo convention and then go to lodge that night in a different city, that's beautiful to me. That both of those things allow me to travel so much. It's really a neat aspect of both.
Oh, that's so cool. So when it comes to tattooing Masonic symbolism, vice non-Masonic symbolism, one of the questions we had in the YouTube chat is, do you find yourself, consciously or subconsciously putting more passion into the Masonic symbolism centric tattoos, vice other ones?
I don't think so. I try to do the best I can with each tattoo I do. Of course, my heart is in some designs more than it is others, especially things that a client may commission me to draw. One, you really feel passionate about the piece of work. It's going to be better. But I'm in a service industry, so people come in and they want something. I'm going to do my best to give them what they want, and to the best of my abilities. But to be 100% truthful, of course, there are things that I enjoy, and I love tattooing Masonic symbolism, although it's nothing but straight lines and perfect circles. So not the easiest stuff to tattoo. But yeah.
So have you gotten to have any conversations from folks who walk into Two Pillars Tattoos and see some of your Masonic symbolism and actually start asking you about Freemasonry?
Oh yeah, all the time. And I'm actually surprised of how many people don't know what Freemasonry is at all. It's, you know, us living in the world, it's just everyday stuff to us, but a lot of people just haven't even heard the word Freemason before. It's hard for me to understand that, but that happens. So it does definitely draw some questions from people for sure. And I've had people ask me about joining Freemasonry, you know, want me to sign for them and such. And I'm a stickler for that, you know, but it is a common piece of discussion when people walk in for sure.
Well, that's so cool. Yeah, I'm fascinated with body art, and it's just,
Well, you know, in Freemasonry and tattooing, I think the oldest tattooed remains were Ötzi the Iceman, and he was found with 50 some tattoos on him from 10,000 years ago. And, you know, if depending on who you ask, of course, operative Freemasonry has been around a very long time. Depending on who you ask, speculative, of course, is as well, or has been as well. And I think that the two have coexisted for a lot longer than people may think. When the Coptic Christians made their trek to Jerusalem, they would tattoo crosses on their wrists as to be protected by the Templar Knights. So there have been kind of little things here and there that have they've coexisted together. It's pretty cool.
that's awesome. And that little chime you heard was John Ruark entering the show. Brother John, introduce yourself real quick.
I have my own intro music. Hey, so John Ruark, pastor of Patriot Lodge, awesome guy. And I had a question for Charles. So there's always at least one guy every time a Masonic ink thread comes up.
Yeah.
But we're not supposed to mark ourselves with any
Right.
symbols of the craft. What's your response to that?
I mean, with all due respect, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's the same thing as a bumper sticker. I mean, what's the difference? It's just the medium in which it's applied, you know. So I've had that conversation myself, of course, with a lot of guys, and you just have to point out, look, you know, everywhere you look, a square and compasses was printed or painted or stamped or stained on, you know, whatever.
Right.
So it is very common, and it's just a different medium.
That said, I wouldn't necessarily recommend anyone go around asking for a 2B1 Ask One tattoo.
No.
I feel like that might go out of style eventually.
I would say so. Yeah.
My suggestion is to ask for a casual smib. I think that's going to start trending. You're going to start seeing those.
Very casual. Very casual.
Yeah, it's just like this.
Yeah.
Casual smib.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, though, you know, since joining the craft, I've just been surprised at the amount of Masons that come and get tattooed. It's really a beautiful thing. I never expected it. I didn't even think about it, to be honest, when I joined Freemasonry. I wanted to join Freemasonry. I wanted to be a Mason. I didn't want to be a Masonic tattooer, but that has, of course, happened as a result. And I really enjoy it. It's another way for me to connect with these guys, with these brothers, that is not just 30 minutes of dinner before lodge and then see you later. You know, we have to sit down for hours and learn about each other, you know, learn our wives' names, you know. So it's really, it makes for an amazing educational experience and empathetic experience with these guys, being able to be in such close quarters and intimate situations.
So what's two-part question. What's the most gratifying thing to you about your craft? The two-part is both tattooing and Freemasonry. It doesn't have to be the same thing, but I'm just interested.
Off the top, what I would say is the work that I put on somebody, when it leaves this building, it goes wherever, all over the world. And I think the same thing is true for Freemasonry. You know, as Masons, we try to make a difference in each conversation we have with people throughout the day, whether it be in our community or our family or friends, what have you. We're marking somebody with whatever experience we've given them. And I think it's the same for tattooing and masonry. When that person leaves you, they take with them what you have given them. And hopefully that's some sort of insight or enlightenment into Freemasonry or tattooing or what have you. And I think it's a worldwide thing that happens, and it's changes, small changes that are made. You know, tattooing can be very therapeutic for people. You know, there's the whole ink therapy thing, which, by the way, it actually really exists. I mean, when people come in, they sit there. I thought about getting a license to be a therapist. Just, you know, I could up my hourly rate by $100. You know, I'm doing it anyway. People come in and they tell you all sorts of things that you may not even want to know. And the theory is when someone's under that amount of pain and duress, that they give you more information. You know, it's torture, essentially, self-inflicted, of course, but it is true. And I notice it all the time. You know, people, they tell me about their relationships, their problems with their marriage or work or what have you. And we sit and talk about it, and it's cool. So it's a good way to pass the time. But it's, you know, it is therapy. It absolutely is.
Oh, that is so cool and so neat. Guys, any more questions for Charles?
Yeah, actually, I had one. I was listening to the show before I came on, and I loved your history and comparison between your craft, your vocational craft, and your speculative craft. And there's a term I had heard recently that reminds me a lot of the comparison, which is the term scratchers.
Yeah.
And so, what would you describe what a scratcher is in that slang used in your community?
I mean, a clandestine tattooer. You know, it's someone who didn't go through the proper channels. You know, you'll hear a lot of people say, "Oh, well, tattooing is really hard to get into," and as it should be. You know, I didn't deserve to get into tattooing when I did. It just happened to work out that way. And I've really tried since I became a tattooer to give back to tattooing, because tattooing owes me nothing, and I owe it everything. It feeds my children. It houses them. It lets me travel the world. So I owe a lot to tattooing, and now Freemasonry since I've joined as well.
And so the direct parallel I see is we in the Masonic community have the term Cowans.
Right.
Where a Cowan is an ancient term that's used to describe imposters, specifically imposters posing as Freemasons or Masons, to pass off their work.
Right.
To try and get the benefits, either tangible or intangible, of being a member of that society. And so I think there's almost a one-to-one correlation between terms and Cowans in both crafts.
And these scratchers, they're tattooing in kitchens. They're not using proper sterilization techniques or cross-contamination. You know, that's all. There's a lot of problems with doing it. It's not just, oh, you need to learn the craft the right way. It's no, you're dealing with people's bodies and blood. This is a legitimate concern when you're just all willy-nilly tattooing people in the kitchen. You know, so it's not just an elitism thing from professional tattooers. It really is a health concern for the people they're tattooing.
Mm-hmm. Are there like traditional observant tattooers as well?
Right. Yeah, they
are those the ones that use the reeds to make the?
Absolutely, it's more of a hammer chisel kind of thing, but yeah, pretty much.
I guess, but I mean, are there an upper tier of tattoo artists that feel that there needs to be more, you know, propriety to the craft?
Yes, you'll find that mostly in, to be careful here, in American traditional tattooing, tattoos that look like tattoos. So you'll find a lot of that, you know, with the boom in popularity of tattooing, you're finding all of these different styles of tattoos, which are beautiful. The problem is, the question is, will they last? So are you cheating the client? They come in, they want this beautiful Baroque oil painting on them, and you give it to them, and 5 years from now it falls apart because there's no outline on it and there's no black in it. And I am advocate for outlines and black. They're carbon based. They are what holds up in the skin. These watercolor tattoos may look pretty, but they're not going to last. So I am an advocate for that. Not necessarily the American traditional style. That's just not the style that speaks to me or what I tattoo. But I love American traditional tattooing. My entire back is done in that style. So I love collecting them. I don't do them just because it's, that's not what screams to me. But yes, you will find that in some aspects of tattooing where it needs to be this and that's it. Everything else is crap, which isn't 100% true. Some of these things you can get away with, and some of them will last. But we're in a strange transitional period of tattooing right now because some of the technologies, as far as the pigments go, the inks go, have changed, and we don't know how they're going to heal. We're only a decade or so into those changes, and it's all up in the air at the moment. So there's this ongoing argument between these new tattooers and these old tattooers, or new tattooers with old ways of thinking, will it last? Are you cheating the customer? Are they going to have to continuously come back their entire life to get this touched up every 5 to 10 years? So,
yeah, that's like using the UV inks and the black light inks. That's something that I always thought was really cool, but I'm like, what are the ramifications, health or otherwise, on some of those?
Right. And I mean, you're implanting phosphorus under the skin. I don't know. I don't do it because I don't know the long-term effects of that. 20 years from now, there may be a huge, everyone's dying that's been tattooed with UV ink from cancer. Who knows? That's an extreme, but still, it's a possibility. So I kind of just like to stick to the tried and true methods with, pigments and ink, and there you go. The UV stuff, it looks cool, but it's a novelty,
Yeah. So one question from Mr. Jacobs. How do the lessons of the craft translate into your art form? Like, i.e., sacred geometry and shading, light and contrast. How do those play in?
They're all there. Sacred geometry is important, especially in our craft and our symbolism, and that directly translates into the tattoos of those symbols. And when I draw a tattoo, I am looking to fit the muscle structure of the body or the placement on the body, and there's a lot that goes into that, and the way it's rendered. So light source and contrast and all these things are definitely important in tattooing, in some forms of tattooing. Other forms, it's just outline, black, color, done. It's not as involved. It's not as involved artistically, I would say. In the classic sense. But tattooing it's its own thing. Because we are working on skin, that changes the whole game. You draw something on paper, it may be beautiful, it may not translate to tattooing.
Oh, that's awesome. Guys, any further questions for Charles before we wrap up?
I've seen, of course, being an artist myself, I get approached every now and then with someone, by someone who wants to get a tattoo done of one of my works, or wants me to modify one of the pieces to accommodate whatever their vision is for their tattoos. And at the same time, I have come across depictions of my work,
right,
just out there in the wild.
Which,
to some it might be surprising, but to me is very thrilling. Like, I don't see it like they took something from me. On the contrary, they honor me,
right,
by making my work a permanent part of their body.
Sure. Now, would you prefer that someone reached out to you, Juan, and asked before they got a tattoo of your work?
Okay, good question. before they go ahead and get a tattoo of something that I've already created, not necessarily.
Okay.
So what I do request is that if you get a tattoo of something that I've already created, that you show it to me, that you let me know and you tag me on it, and
Right. Right.
I don't expect you to include my signature in it.
Right.
Having a man's signature in your body is another topic for another day.
Right.
But now, what I usually do when brothers ask me to make a design for them, I give them the option. I say, well, I create a drawing based on our conversation, and I put it in your hands as a drawing. You can then
Right.
take that to the artist that can put it in your body, and
Right.
now you have a piece on your wall that matches your tattoo.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's usually my suggestion. But when we spoke in Virginia, you came up to me and told me that you had done some design based on my work.
I did. I used one of your pieces as a reference for a design.
And I'm totally cool with that. I'm honored to see it, and it's a treat whenever I come across it in the wild, as I say, on the internet. It's like, oh, how cool is that?
Yeah, I think you and Carl are probably two of the most repeated of the artists in the Masonic tattoo community.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've always loved your work since I've discovered it.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you very much.
Of course. Yeah. And whenever you're ready to come get one on you, you know where I am.
I got to work on these puppies first.
Right. I'll just cover them up with tattoos.
Yeah. Distract people from the.
Yeah, you got to distract the eye.
There you go.
Right. Cool.
Awesome. Well, it's about that time. So let's go around for final thoughts, shameless plugs, snark remarks, and we'll start with Mike the intern.
So yeah, I'm still working on the idea in my head about whether or not I'll ever get one, but yeah, like I told you earlier, I have mine figured out. It's going to be the keystone, but but it's a matter of actually getting past a few things in myself to do that.
Right.
But actually, I do appreciate the art on people. I do.
Yeah.
So, I've got a buddy who's got a really awesome one on his arm. A buddy of mine just got the keystone on his leg.
Right.
Yeah. So, my day's coming. It's just, me getting past it myself. But,
and like I said, it can be a very therapeutic thing. It can be kind of a bloodletting ritual, if you will, and you kind of release a little bit. So I've seen that happen quite a bit. So you let me know.
All right. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. But anyway, just to put it out there, Lakeshore Lodge, number 307, is going to have a More Light night on May 31st. Robert Johnson will be attending. So anybody who's interested, PM me on Facebook, and we can get you a reservation for dinner, which is at 6 o'clock. The presentation's at 7. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Brother Mike. We'll go over to John Ruark next.
All right. Again, Charles, thanks for coming out. I had a question about, I don't know if it was covered, so if it was covered, my apologies. Have you ever had someone ask for a symbol to be tattooed on that was purely Masonic and they were not a Mason?
I have had that happen once or twice. I won't do it.
I was going to say, did you have a right of refusal?
Yeah. I won't do it. And I've seen people get, square and compasses, particularly for their grandfather or their father. Women who have gotten them tattooed on them. I've seen. But it's just a choice of mine. I prefer not to do that. I think you need to earn the right to wear it.
There you go. And then after that, go nuts, right?
Right. Exactly.
Well, I do appreciate you coming on the show tonight.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. I really do.
Learned a lot, and again, it's always great between you and Ronnie Zulu, and just the exposure into a subculture within a subculture.
Right.
I really do appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all I got. Thanks. Back to you, Jason.
All right, thanks, Brother Juan Sepulveda.
All right. Well, this was very interesting. I love hearing the behind the scenes of any artistic endeavor. So to see the parallels and the contrast. I think that's very exciting. I really appreciate you joining us, Brother Charles, because it's it's been a while.
Yeah,
Right?
no, it's my pleasure. My pleasure.
Love the background, by the way. People have been giving good compliments of your decor, so
Cool.
that's
Cool.
always cool.
I've got a cool designer.
Nice. And to the brothers listening, just think about the act of adorning your body. I don't have any tattoos myself, but usually I really enjoy having those conversations and seeing the catalyst of a conversation in a piece that someone carries around. So if you've been thinking about having a Masonic tattoo or any other tattoo for that matter, give it some thought. This is something that will accompany you for the rest of your life. And some people choose to just grab a design that they find on a random place or in a book or something. But I encourage you to actually look at brothers like Charles that can create something customized that really speaks directly to your life experience. And if you're interested in having a tattoo done of some of my work, just make sure you let me know. I'd love to share that with the brothers of the Winding Stairs and the Masonic Roundtable. And as always, thank you for the support.
All right, great. Thanks, Brother Charles. Bring us home. Final thoughts. Tell us a little bit about your tattoo shop.
So I'm here in Richmond, Virginia, Two Pillars Tattoo. We are a very comfortable and relaxed environment. We pride ourselves in being kind to people. We never want it to be an intimidating experience in a tattoo shop. There's still a little bit of that edginess to it, but we do enjoy being as professional as possible. And I love the craft, both tattooing and Freemasonry. I think they have both helped to make me a better person, a better father, a better husband, and it's really helped to change my life for the better. Both of them have. So I'm honored to be a part of both of those crafts, which are so much bigger than myself.
Awesome. Well, bringing us home. Thank you so much, Brother Charles, for coming on.
Thank you very much.
No problem. We are all huge fans of you and your work, and we're blessed to be able to call you friend and a brother. So thanks so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge about your crafts with us.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime.
So for those of you watching, thanks so much for coming and spending your Thursday evening with us week after week. We really appreciate it. We love the super chats from John Ruark this time around, as well as Brother Joe Martinez. So thank you so much for all you do to support us and give us topics and listen to us ramble on and on for weeks on end. So looking forward to seeing some of you later on this year, either at Camp Masonry in June or even Esotericon. Yes, Camp Masonry in August, Esotericon in June 15th. That's going to be a ton of fun. Brother Charles, you're going to be there with us for Esotericon. Yeah,
absolutely.
Can't wait to get to hang out with you more. And for everybody else watching, looking forward to meeting you on the road at some point in time. Thanks so much for watching, and keep searching for more light. Good night.
Night.